Sophie gasped, her body trembling as a sharp pain tore through her chest. The beeping of the monitor echoed in the cold hospital room. She clutched the sheets, her lips moving in silent prayers. God, please. Have mercy on me. Heal me. Give me another chance, she whispered, tears rolling down her pale cheeks. Just a few months ago, Sophie had everything she ever wanted, or so she thought. She had come to Abuja as a youth corps member, fresh out of university, full of dreams. When she landed a job as an investment banker in one of Abuja's biggest banks, she decided to stay. Sophie always wanted the soft life. She admired the women she saw on Instagram, draped in designer clothes, flaunting luxury handbags, stepping out of exotic cars, and vacationing in the most breathtaking destinations. She knew she couldn't afford that lifestyle on her salary, but she was certain that if she played her cards right, she would find men who would sponsor her dreams. She became the perfect blend of beauty and sophistication. Every morning, she stepped into the bank looking flawless, her designer perfume lingering in the air, her high heels clicking against the marble floors, her outfits always classy yet alluring. It didn't take long before she caught the attention of her wealthy clients, especially the older married men who had power, influence, and deep pockets. At first, it was harmless, just casual conversations, flirtatious smiles, and the occasional compliments from these men. But then, the offers started coming in. Some of them left huge tips after transactions. Others invited her to their offices, slipping bundles of cash into her hands, whispering promises of more if she would be theirs. Sophie was thrilled. Her plan was falling into place. Her first sugar daddy was Chief Zaza, a man with a commanding presence, a deep voice, and an endless flow of wealth. He was a big name in oil and gas, and he adored Sophie. He wasted no time in setting her up, renting a luxurious apartment for her in one of Abuja's highbrow areas, furnishing it with the finest things money could buy. He funded her account generously, gifted her designer pieces, whisked her away on vacations, and even got her a sleek new car. Sophie felt on top of the world. She attended exclusive parties, sipped expensive champagne, and mingled with Abuja's elite. She had officially become one of the big girls she had always admired. But she wanted more. Chief Zaza was just the beginning. She strategically built connections with more wealthy men, expanding her network of benefactors. Each man had his role. One handled rent, another was in charge of vacations, another catered to her shopping needs, and yet another funded her business ventures. She was living the dream. Sophie became very comfortable and was doing well at work too, since she met her targets easily because of the rich men whose accounts she managed. Her best friend, Amba, was also an Abuja big girl and very popular on Instagram. She always hounded Sophie to hook her up with wealthy Abuja men since most of them were her clients. Sophie sure did introduce her to a few of her rich customers. One day, Amba suggested they go for a lipo 360 procedure since they could now afford it. She wanted them to have banging bodies like the big girls they admired on Instagram. Sophie was intrigued by the idea. She told Chief Zaza about her plan, and without hesitation, he approved and sent her the money for the procedure. Sophie and Amba traveled to Brazil for the lipo 360 surgery. It was a complete success. When they saw their new bodies, big butts, tiny waists, and flat tummies, they were beyond pleased. The transformation was everything they had imagined. Upon returning to Abuja, Sophie's popularity skyrocketed. She was now a sensation both in the city and on Instagram. Rich men, both single and married, flocked to her, eager to be with her. The attention was overwhelming, and with her newfound status, she decided to quit her banking job to focus solely on her lavish lifestyle and the multiple men funding it. She expanded her dating circle beyond Chief Zaza. She now had politicians, tech bros, music artists, and business moguls all competing for her time. She was the most talked about big girl in Abuja and on social media. Sophie lived extravagantly, clubbing in the most exclusive spots, flying to different countries for fun, buying designer clothes, changing cars to the latest models, purchasing expensive jewelry, wearing luxurious human hair extensions, using the newest phones, and even buying a grand mansion in a highbrow area of Abuja. She was the ultimate Abuja big girl. Surprisingly, all the men in her life knew she was seeing others, but they didn't care. As long as she was available whenever they needed her, they were satisfied. Her life seemed perfect, glamorous, enviable, and without limits. One afternoon, Sophie dressed up nicely and drove to a new, fancy, and exclusive restaurant to have lunch. As she walked in, a wealthy politician named Alhaji Yusuf was seated in the same restaurant, dining alone. He stared at Sophie as she walked to take a seat. Something about her aura intrigued him. The confidence, the elegance, the effortless beauty. While Sophie was eating, Alhaji Yusuf walked up to her, handed her his complimentary card, and said in a deep, calm voice, "Call me." Without another word, he turned and left the restaurant. That evening, curiosity got the best of Sophie. She dialed the number. Alhaji Yusuf picked up almost immediately, his voice smooth and commanding. He was pleased she called. They talked for a while, and before the conversation ended, he invited her to his private beach house, promising to send his driver to pick her up. The following day, Sophie dressed up in a breathtaking outfit, carefully selected to leave an impression. As promised, Alhaji's driver arrived, and she was whisked away to the beach house. The place was beyond luxurious. Sprawling ocean views, expensive art pieces, and the finest decor she had ever seen. Alhaji welcomed her warmly, his charm undeniable. Over a candlelit dinner, he looked into her eyes and said, "I want you to be my woman. I will make you the happiest woman in the world." Sophie hesitated for only a moment before nodding. This was exactly the kind of man she wanted. Wealthy, powerful, and generous. And Alhaji didn't disappoint. He flew her in private jets, bought her Birkin bags and luxury wristwatches, gifted her another house, and credited her account with jaw-dropping sums of money. For 3 months, Alhaji did all these for Sophie without asking her for sex. One weekend, Sophie was at Alhaji's house, enjoying their usual lavish evenings. As they sat in the living room gisting, she decided to test his generosity further. She leaned in closer, her voice sultry, and asked, "Alhaji, I want a Lamborghini truck. Will you buy it for me?" Alhaji smiled, taking a deep sip of his wine before replying, "Of course, my dear. But on one condition." Sophie's smile faltered slightly. "What condition?" she asked, curiosity piqued. Alhaji leaned back, his eyes dark with something unreadable. "I have a wound on my leg, and I feel pleasured when people lick it. Do this for me, and the Lamborghini is yours." When Alhaji made his request, Sophie froze. She wasn't new to unusual demands. Wealthy men often had strange fetishes, but this was beyond anything she had ever heard. She tried to laugh it off. "Alhaji, you're joking, right?" she asked, her voice laced with nervous amusement. But Alhaji didn't smile. His expression remained calm, unreadable. "I have given you everything you asked for, Sophie. And I will continue to. But this is what I need from you in return." A cold shiver ran down her spine. She excused herself and hurried into the bathroom, her hands trembling as she dialed Amber's number. "Babe, you won't believe what this man just asked me to do," she whispered. Amber, ever unbothered, yawned into the phone. "Let me guess, some weird role play. He wants to watch you with another woman. You know these big men and their kinks." "No," Sophie hissed. It's disgusting. He wants me to lick a wound on his body." There was silence on the other end before Amber finally spoke. "Okay, I know it is disgusting. But babe, let's be real. Do you know what some other girls do for less? You're getting a whole Lamborghini out of this. What's a little wound licking compared to that?" Sophie gagged at the thought. "Amber, this is not normal. Neither is flying private jets and living in a mansion without lifting a finger," Amber countered. "Look, you've come too far to start acting shy. If you don't do it, another girl will. You know how Abuja is." Sophie ended the call, her mind in turmoil. She returned to the lavish living room, where Alhaji sipped his drink, watching her expectantly. She took a deep breath and forced a smile. "I'll do it." Alhaji's lips curled into a satisfied grin. That night she sealed her fate. She sat beside Alhaji on his grand velvet couch, her palms damp with sweat. The dimly lit room smelled of exotic incense and aged whiskey, the air thick with an eerie silence that made her heart pound against her ribs. She had never felt so conflicted in her life. Alhaji lifted the hem of his flowing kaftan, revealing his leg. A sickening sight met Sophie's eyes. A deep, festering wound, dark around the edges with a strange, almost unnatural appearance. It didn't look like any ordinary injury. It was as though something was eating away at his flesh, yet there was no sign of pain on Alhaji's face. Sophie's stomach twisted in disgust. She swallowed hard, looking away for a brief second, but Alhaji's deep voice pulled her back. "It's just skin, my love. No different from kissing any other part of my body." She wanted to run, to bolt out of the mansion and never look back. But Amber's words echoed in her mind. "If you don't do it, another girl will." The Lamborghini truck, the designer bags, the private jets, the life she had worked so hard to secure for herself, it all rested on this one moment. Slowly she leaned in, her breath shallow. The closer she got, the stronger the metallic scent of old blood and decay became. She hesitated, but Alhaji placed a firm hand on the back of her head, pushing her closer. "Don't think. Just do it." A lump rose in her throat, but she forced herself to comply. The moment her tongue made contact with the wound, she felt a strange tingling sensation shoot through her body. A wave of nausea hit her, and she nearly gagged, but she clenched her eyes shut and continued, suppressing the urge to retch. Alhaji let out a deep, satisfied sigh. "Good girl," he murmured, stroking her hair. He leaned back in his seat, his eyes rolling back in pleasure as Sophie continued, her mind screaming at her to stop. But she didn't. She couldn't. She had made her choice. When it was over, she rushed to the bathroom, scrubbing her tongue with soap and rinsing her mouth repeatedly until her gums bled. She felt dirty, tainted in a way that no amount of luxury could cleanse. But the next morning when she checked her phone, a notification from her bank greeted her, an alert for a massive credit transfer. Hours later a call came in. "Your car has arrived," Alhaji's smooth voice informed her. "Go and pick it up." A thrill of excitement surged through Sophie despite the queasiness still lingering in her stomach. She slipped into one of her finest outfits and made her way to the luxury car dealership. The moment she saw the sleek Lamborghini truck, her disgust from the previous night melted into pure euphoria. She ran her fingers over its glossy surface, reveling in the envious glances of the onlookers. This was it. This was the life she had fought for. She wasted no time flaunting her new acquisition on Instagram. She posted pictures from every angle, captioning them with cryptic yet boastful words. "Hard work and patience pay off." The internet exploded. She trended for days, her name on everyone's lips. She was no longer just an Abuja big girl. She was the Abuja big girl. Messages flooded in, some congratulatory, others filled with jealousy and suspicion. But Sophie didn't care. She had won. To celebrate, she threw an extravagant party at one of the most exclusive nightclubs in Abuja. The who's who of the city were in attendance. Politicians, businessmen, celebrities, influencers. Drinks flowed endlessly, music blared through the speakers, and Sophie basked in the attention and admiration. Alhaji sat in a private VIP section, watching her, his eyes gleaming with something unreadable. He had given her everything she wanted. And in return, she had given him something far more valuable. Unbeknownst to Sophie, the clock had started ticking. The moment she licked that wound, a countdown began, one she had no idea existed. Sophie didn't know that Alhaji Yusuf belonged to a secret cult, an ancient brotherhood that granted wealth and longevity through a dark ritual. The wound on his leg was no ordinary wound. It was the source of his power, a portal through which life was transferred. Each time Sophie licked it, she unknowingly fed her own life force into Alhaji, making him stronger, healthier, and more prosperous while draining herself. Her lifespan was being shortened, her soul unknowingly sacrificed in exchange for his continued wealth and survival. The true price of her luxury was yet to be revealed. Sophie spent most of her time with Alhaji Yusuf, more than any of her other men. The trips, the gifts, the luxury, everything was at her fingertips. Licking Alhaji's wound became a routine, something she did without thinking twice. The first few times she had been disgusted, but with Amber's encouragement and the promise of wealth, she convinced herself it was just another price to pay for the life she desired. She grew accustomed to it, numbing her thoughts to what it truly meant. For months after she started licking his wound, Sophie developed a slight cough. She didn't think much of it at first. Abuja's weather could be harsh, and she had been partying too much. She got medication, assuming it was just a passing cold. But as the weeks passed, the cough became persistent, deeper, harsher. Her body felt weak, her energy levels dropped, and no matter how much she tried to keep up appearances, she was struggling. By the 5th month, Sophie could barely get out of bed. The cough was relentless, and her body ached as though she had been beaten from the inside. She had difficulty breathing, and walking even a short distance left her gasping for air. Alarmed, she visited one of the best hospitals in Abuja. The doctors ran several tests, but they couldn't find what was wrong with her. They prescribed more medications, but nothing worked. Her condition worsened rapidly. She began losing weight at an alarming rate. The once glowing, curvy, and radiant Sophie became frail, her skin dull, her face sunken. Her designer clothes no longer fit, and even standing up to take a picture for Instagram became impossible. Desperate, she traveled abroad for treatment. She flew to Dubai, then the UK, spending millions in different hospitals, but none of the doctors could diagnose her illness. It was as if her body was shutting down for no reason. Then came the ultimate betrayal. The men who once fought for her attention, who showered her with gifts and money, stopped answering her calls. Even Alhaji Yusuf, the one who had promised to make her the happiest woman in the world, was nowhere to be found. She sent countless messages, but they were ignored. One by one, all her sugar daddies vanished. Even Amber, her best friend, stopped checking in on her. Instead, Amber was now seen around town, scrambling to take Sophie's place, moving into her circles, and dating the same men she once had in her palm. With no source of income, Sophie's medical bills kept piling. The money in her accounts was drained. The luxurious lifestyle she once flaunted came crashing down. Her mother, a simple, God-fearing woman, stayed by her side, caring for her at the hospital, watching helplessly as her daughter withered away. When the bills became too much, they started selling everything. The Lamborghini truck she once adored, her exotic cars, her designer bags, her gold and diamond jewelry. Everything was sold off just to keep her alive. But nothing helped. The disease, whatever it was, kept eating her up. By the 6th month she could barely talk. She was a shadow of herself, unrecognizable even to those who once envied her. Every day, she lay in her hospital bed, tears rolling down her cheeks, asking God for mercy, for a second chance, for forgiveness. She regretted every decision that led her to this point. The parties, the men, the obsession with wealth. It all seemed meaningless now. On the night of exactly 6 months since she first licked Alhaji Yusuf's wound, Sophie took her last breath. The monitors in the hospital room beeped frantically before a long, final silence. Her mother, who had been holding her hand, let out a heartbreaking wail, the kind that echoes through the soul. Sophie, once the most talked-about big girl in Abuja, was gone. And out there, Alhaji Yusuf continued to thrive, waiting for his next victim.